Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerd Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Garret Price.
Oh, whoa. How's it going?
Yeah, I got a new favorite, and that's Matt O'Hara.
Hey, what the
Hey, he helped me talk me through a trade.
Yeah.
And you were being very selfish with your opinions, so that's the way it is.
I thought I made a pretty good point that you leaned on quite heavily in making that decision.
To a point.
But
No,
you did. Geez.
I had to make a big boy trade in a high stakes league, and
Man.
one where I felt like I definitely won the trade, but it's still hard to. Goes to show you when you have a high draft pick, sometimes it can really weigh you down.
They're hard to move.
It's hard to give up draft picks, and I
know.
just made a trade, and I gave up a pick that's probably gonna be top 4.
And we showed how valuable the top 4 can
Top
be.
4 is pretty nice.
Oh, here we go.
Just last week, Rich.
Hey, just kidding. I'm the commissioner of the league. I'm running the group chat. Hey, I changed my mind. Can we reverse it?
I accidentally hit the wrong button.
So we're back. We got some news from this past weekend that we weren't sure on the injury show. We'll talk about. We're going to talk about tight ends because it was National Tight End Week, and they all went off. So we're going to talk tight end rankings here. We're going to do a little bit of Boomin, backup or bust. We're going to talk some players that are not starters, some roster fillers, even though one guy's kind of really worked his way into your starting lineup, and let you know how we feel about those guys. So we got a lot to talk about. But before we do, I know Matt wants to give a friend of ours a shout out and some support.
Yeah, so real quick before we get started, I just wanted to mention my good friend Bill over at Penny Cup Company in Asheville, North Carolina. Bill and I grew up in the same hometown as Rich as well. We've been friends since like high school. He has a small batch coffee company. Basically, they roast their own coffee down there, and several coffee houses that go along with that. They're operating out of Asheville, North Carolina, which is obviously right where that hurricane just hit.
Very moist.
Yeah, and luckily they were able to sidestep any major damage to any of their coffee houses or anything like that. But that whole area is still kind of devastated with, lots of stuff going on, and they don't have drinkable water in the town yet. So obviously that business is suffering. A lot of his business is inside the Asheville area, kind of serving coffee to all the restaurants and all that kind of stuff within there. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. They are offering online orders. So they roast their coffee and then they send it to you basically. And I just wanted to give them a shout out. And so if you're into coffee, if you're into it, it's really good coffee. It's what I drink every single day. I know Rich has had it as well and loves it. So if you're into coffee, please check them out. pennycupcoffeeco.com, pennycupcoffeeco.com. Check them out, please.
Yes, just Google Penny Cup Coffee. I've had it. Matt makes a mean cold brew and he uses her coffee, and I love it. And dude, I love coffee.
Yep.
I drink it every day. I think we've had this conversation on podcast before, like how much I spend on coffee is so ridiculous.
That's one of those things you don't want to do the math.
But dude, if somebody is like easily like, hey, would you give up alcohol or you to give up one or other alcohol or coffee? Like without even like a thought process, it'd be both alcohol.
You don't do either.
I don't do either.
Oh, wow. I think it would be real tough if somebody said you had to give up like chewy candy.
Chewy
made you feel good?
Chewy candy that makes you feel good or coffee, Rich. Which one for you?
I don't know.
For me, it'd be like burgers or tacos or like that's when it starts getting difficult for me.
Oh, burgers, no. But me and my son were talking. He's like, oh, you got to give up. Like,
I'd give up
bread.
burgers. By the way, I'd give up burgers in a heartbeat if it was burgers and tacos. It wouldn't.
If those are the only two options,
Yeah.
oh, jeez.
I'd give up tacos. I like burgers too much.
I'm going to have to pray about it.
All right. But anyway, don't give up coffee. Go to pennycupcoffeeco.com. Check them out. They are delicious.
It is. It's hard to find good coffee too. Like it is like good beans. Like it's hard.
They have them from all over the place too. South America, Ethiopian blends. They have their own blends that they serve to the different coffee shops that aren't their own. So it's pretty cool, man. And Asheville is a pretty happening town. So they do it right down there.
Penny Cup Coffee Company. Google
CO.
it. Support them.
.com.
Now I'm gonna go have a coffee tomorrow, and every day of my life. Every day I drink coffee. I drink coffee every day of my life.
I drink their coffee every day of my life, and it's really good.
Thank you so much. So before we get into our show topics, we had the Stefon Diggs injury. We talked about it yesterday. I said it was almost guaranteed ACL the way his knee moved. It is ACL. He is out for the year. Nico Collins won't be back this week, probably the following week. So Tank Dell is going to help. Then you have John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson out there to kind of help out there.
Don't forget about Robert Woods. How dare you not?
Bobby Trees is still there.
How dare you not mention that?
Oh, I thought he was in the back, like you know, when you have that really old person in your family that never kind of like they know, like hey, and then kind of like just sits there in the corner that nobody really acknowledges. So rude. I would never do that.
The petrified
I've seen it.
tree that is.
Yeah,
Robert Woods.
Yeah, Bobby Trees in the back corner. Literally forget he's in the NFL still.
Yeah,
like it's insane.
I mean, he's not really.
I don't think he was either.
He's there. He's there. He's on the team.
And then Diontae Johnson gets traded to the Baltimore Ravens, the best place for a wide receiver to get traded.
Gosh.
So that obviously it makes the Ravens realize we made a really big mistake here, which any of us could have told them when they re-signed Rashad Bateman. That wasn't probably the best move.
Bateman's been doing okay. That was a bad game that he had this past week, but he's been doing
okay.
Yeah.
But this is Dynasty we're talking about.
The part that could potentially be annoying, and I know you and I were talking about this, Rich, beforehand, we finally were getting a consistent receiver in Baltimore, and it was Zay Flowers. He's wide receiver 16 on the season. Yeah. He's had 4 games over like 18 points. He's had a very good season. And now this just muddies the waters once again when we were finally getting some kind of clarity in Baltimore because like we couldn't even figure out 100% the tight end situation for a while. Like Zay Flowers really was the only consistent thing, and now it's still.
I don't think it worries me. I feel like Lamar plays a little bit of favorites. I think Zay's still the best receiver. I
sure hope so.
I don't think it changes it too much. And plus, a lot of receivers don't move teams halfway through the year and end up being really good.
It's true. It's surprising. Like right after signing him too, like Diontae Johnson just came there this year, and they already shipped him out.
And they're eating like, dude, what a weird. They're eating like $3 million just to move up, like.
Around on day 3.
I think there was some things going on behind the scenes.
I'm sure there had to have been.
There were. I read there was like practice habits that they weren't in love with. From him, and
that makes more sense then.
That does. Definitely have young receivers on your team. How many they have out there? So that bodes well. I mean, obviously Xavier Legette, who leads in targets with 35 already, slides that number 1 role. So it's really good for him. And then another receiver you want to check your waiver wires for, another rookie, Jalen Coker.
We're going to talk about him in a second.
Yeah, we are going to talk about him. Check your waiver wires for Jalen Coker. Make sure you get him on there. He's a big receiver, 6'3". Not a speedster, a possession receiver, but good hands. So listen, a team that's going to be trailing are going to throw the ball up. He's going to be obviously
telling me there's a
Xavier
chance.
Legette can go get it as well. But Jalen Coker's there, and they have Jonathan Mingo. So that team's a complete disarray.
Totally agree.
It's going to be weird. Like I was thinking about this today. When I saw that trade go through, I was like, man, Carolina right now is the number 1 pick in the NFL draft again. Like, has a team ever finished 3 straight years? Obviously, they didn't have their own pick last year, but has a team ever finished 3 years straight with the number 1 overall pick? I know Cleveland did it back-to-back. They got Myles Garrett and Baker.
I don't know. That's a great question.
That is a good question. I do not know the answer to it either.
Although, actually 2 years ago, it wasn't their pick that was number 1 because they traded with the Bears.
Oh, yeah, you're
traded
right.
up to
they
get
traded
Bryce.
up to get Bryce. Oh, yeah, you're right. Never mind.
They gave up extra to get Bryce.
It's like us trading 3 first-round picks and giving up $250 million for a pervert. But whatever.
Look, I just like knowing that there's other people that make horrible decisions frequently as well.
Yeah, I thought about it the other day. I was like, man, it really sucks being a Browns fan. And I was like, that could be a Carolina fan. There's no hope in sight there whatsoever. So, hey, we're in this together, Carolina. Don't worry, I'm a Cleveland fan. Story of my life. Cavs look good.
Cavs look good.
Any other news? Any other news that we missed?
The only other thing, Tyrone Tracy, who had a fantastic game last night. It sounds like he's in concussion protocol, unfortunately, but obviously that's not typically a long-term issue. But
a week at the most. He's looked good.
He's looked really good.
So, and we'll talk about Tyrone Tracy tomorrow's show, because tomorrow's show we're going to be redrafting the rookie class after 8 weeks. So we're more than halfway through the NFL regular season, almost halfway through the regular NFL season. Have a little bit more reality in our lives of how things may look, and we're going to redraft them and kind of talk about that out tomorrow on tomorrow's show. And then we'll have the Nerd Herd show out later this week. So remember, if you want to join the Nerd Herd, go ahead, get on there. And don't forget, leave us a rating and review for the podcast, wherever you listen to the podcast. I always say at the end of the show. I never say at the beginning.
You're right.
We need your votes.
Right. Jeez. Let's not.
You want me to start texting you?
This is the only place
I'm going to start.
people come for non-political.
You know what? I'm just going to start typing random numbers in and just start a Dynasty Nerds random text chain. It's just going to be random.
Or just make people vote on stuff that is just really
no, it's not even a vote.
Who do you think would win in a fight?
No, just support Dynasty Nerds.
Yeah,
and just send them out
looking for your rating and review.
Just start not even people that are listeners, just random across the nation.
I don't know. I'll send an Apple iTunes link for the review, and if it shows up like, was it green? Is that it?
You'll know it's Android.
If it's it's Android away, I'll be like, oh, sorry, here's the Google review.
Unsend.
Oh, those texts are the worst. Like, leave me alone. I already know who I'm voting for. All right, so let's get into our tight end episode. So what are we talking about here, Garret?
Yeah, it was a National Tight End Day, and we had the most tight end receptions in a single day in NFL history. 177.
Get out of here.
Receptions. Wild. On the year where we've had so few and far between good weeks from our tight ends. It seems like everybody decided, you know what? This is the week. This is the week that things are going to be good. I saw some guy tweeted out he had like a 10 or 12 leg parlay that he hit $10 for like almost $200,000.
Holy.
And I saw someone who bet 60 won $50,000. You need that George Kittle tight end?
No, this guy just bet like a bunch of random random, but like a bunch of it was all the big name guys that all scored touchdowns. But he even threw in Sam Laporta, who hasn't done much this year, and Dalton Kincaid and like guys like that. But then he had Kittle and Pitts and Otten, and it was like a 10-12 leg parlay for $10 that he hit for nearly $200,000. But
jeez,
all that being said, it got me thinking. The tight end position right now, I don't think we're gonna have a lot to talk about at the very top, but outside of that. There is a lot of arguments to be made where you could place guys in a pretty wide range. And so I thought it would be interesting for us to discuss our top 12 dynasty tight ends and why we have certain guys where we have them. So I don't know who wants to go first with their list of their top 12, but then we can kind of break down why we have certain guys maybe different from one another.
Well, I don't talk enough on this show, so I'll go first. Here's my list in order, how I currently have it in my rank set in tight ends. Number 1, Brock Bowers, tier all by himself. Number 2, Trey McBride, slowly here, kind of like boxing out here, keeping a tier of himself somewhat from what it looks like. At 3, I have Sam Laporta. And to be fair, this next tier for me is pretty, like, I could have the Sam Laporta at 3. I could have him at 5. It doesn't really make a difference. But I have Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, David Njoku, Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft, who I clearly, after talking this out loud and telling you guys my list, have too low. I should probably bump him up to 7. Then Evan Ingram and Jake Ferguson.
Well, it sounds like you're looking right at my list if you went to number 7 for Tucker Kraft, but I'll get started at the top with mine. Number 1, Brock Bowers. Number 2, Trey McBride. Number 3, Dalton Kincaid. Number 4, Sam Laporta. Number 5, Hawkinson. Number 6, Kyle Pitts. Number 7, Tucker Kraft. Number 8, George Kittle. Here comes the old guys. Number 9, Travis Kelce. Number 10, Mark Andrews. Number 11, David Njoku. And number 12, Jake Ferg.
And then for me, I have the same top 2, but then it differs a little bit from your guys's. So I have Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, 1 and 2. And then at 3, I have Kyle Pitts. 4, I have Tucker Kraft. 5, George Kittle. 6, TJ Hawkinson. 7, Dalton Kincaid. 8, Evan Ingram. 9, Mark Andrews. 10, Jake Ferguson. 11, David Njoku. And 12, Travis Kelce. So let me ask you guys real quick before we get into more specifics. So like, let's take your list for an example, Rich.
Thank you.
Do you feel, and this is why this was difficult for me.
Thank you.
Do you feel confident that over the next 2 to 3 years that Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, and TJ Hawkinson, those are who you have at 3, 4, and 5. Do you feel very confident that they will outscore Tucker Kraft, Evan Ingram, and Jake Ferguson, you have at 10, 11, and 12?
I feel pretty good over how many years?
2 to 3. Like the window we should be looking at roughly for our leagues.
I feel confident about T.J. Hawkinson.
Okay.
I do.
Even with, the different quarterback than what he's had.
I mean, he's had 3 quarterbacks so far, and he's looked sweet with all 3 of them.
I would argue the only one that he's really been sweet with was Kirk Cousins.
You look good with Nick Mullins.
3 games.
Okay, well, sorry, you got to.
And 2 of them were against the worst defense in football.
I mean, once you lose your virginity, you're no longer a virgin. It only happens once. Where are you going with this?
I'm just saying, I still have a little bit of hesitation.
I have Tucker Kraft too low at 10. I will go through my adjust. I probably should rank him out because of his youth. The only thing that hesitates about Tucker Kraft for me, even though he's looked really good so far, is the abundance of, again, they're all just so equally, nobody's great, but they're all good, right? And then what happens when Luke Musgrave comes back fully healthy? Which again, I like Luke Musgrave's tape. He's a solid tight end too. So there's so many other avenues to go on Tucker Kraft. Even though he's looked really good, he's tight end 5 on the year in PPR. I still want to move him up, but I still believe in Dalton Kincaid. I still think he has a chance to be a top 2 option in this offense every week. There's moments where I'm like, this is the game, and he looks a little bit better, and he's getting some targets, and the ball's slightly off. So I still believe in Kincaid. I have Laporta at 3. That's the one I'm starting to worry a little bit about because of his usage this year. Was it just the perfect storm for him as a rookie? And what happens when Ben Johnson leaves that team and becomes a head coach as well? Does something change there as well? But he did it as a rookie. He did something that was unprecedented from rookies too. He just came out and was a tight end 1. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But like I said, I mean, for me, if you're hey, I have Kyle Pitts here at 3 and you have Sam Laporta at 6, it's a tier for me. So
I just realized somehow I didn't have Sam Laporta in my top 12. So I am going to go ahead and put him in there. I don't know how I was
wondering if you were trying to make
I wasn't trying to make a statement.
Okay.
So that would boot Travis Kelce out. That's my fault.
You're bad at this. So
this is your own.
No, I don't want to say confident. I feel really good. Listen, T.J. Hawkinson is a very, very good tight end. Was at Iowa coming out. Looked throughout the whole process. He from a rookie on, and I know he didn't come out, banging the drums, but he's a very, very good tight end.
Who'd you say? I'm sorry. I looked down for a second. Hawkinson.
So. And he's been so consistent his time in Minnesota. And I think, with the head coach there, Kevin O'Connell, I think he's an integral part of this offense. I think he's the number 2 look in that offense, even over a guy like Jordan Addison. Kincaid, the options there. Kyle Pitts has come up these last couple of weeks as well. So it's just really, it's a good hodgepodge of tight ends that I can go either way. I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox.
And I think that was kind of my point was I don't know that you can say confidently that the guys at 3, 4, 5 are significantly better than the guys at 10, 11, 12, which could offer potential opportunities in Dynasty if somebody does feel strongly about one of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely do that. If the trade option came available, I can get plus for any of those guys, I would move any one of those guys for any kind of plus.
Is Kincaid included in that for you? Your boo?
Yeah, but for me personally, the only reason it would be is because I have so many shares of them.
Yeah.
At the same time, so that makes it different. If I had one Dalton Kincaid share and I only played a normal person and I was in 4 leagues, I had one. Yeah, I just wouldn't trade him because I want to keep my Dalton Kincaid share. But I have a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I have a lot. So he's open there. And honestly, the only guy I see with the potential to move down slightly here would be a Sam Laporta because I need to see more. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt of the whole year.
Sure.
He gets the whole year and see how he rebounds next year before I really start to pivot. But I mean, for him to pivot, even for me, this year, the farthest he can go down is probably 6, him and Kyle Pitts. Everybody else can keep moving back up. I mean, Hawkinson can clearly move back up if he looks really good at the end of the year and go back. I mean, so going into last year, he's my number 1 overall tight end.
Hawkinson is 5 for you, and that's where he is for me as well. You're saying he can leapfrog some of these other guys in your top 4 if he.
Yeah, he was my number 1 overall tight end going into the year last year. So and then he got hurt.
How old is he though? That's the thing.
I think he's 28.
He's got to be 28 or 29, right? He's getting.
Oh, he's not 29 for sure.
No.
I wanted to say he was actually 27.
I want to say he's even younger than 28 as well. I'm with Garret on that one.
But
Well, let me find him.
I actually
Too late. He's 27. Doesn't turn 28 until July. He's a young child.
He's a young buck.
So
I have right now that I fixed it, I knew I had them together. For some reason, I just didn't put his name down. But I have Kincaid and Sam Laporta at 7 and 8. Now, I had Kincaid up where you guys did towards the beginning of the year. I had him at 2. I had him towards the very top. The problem is right now that I'm seeing out of these guys is specifically Kincaid, which I know he has the opportunity. He just hasn't. He's one of these guys that hasn't really done much of anything yet. It's all still on projection and excitement and hype.
Agreed.
And so I think that's for me. Like I was willing to move a George Kittle, who I know is significantly older at age 31, but we still see. I mean, Travis Kelce's 35, 36 out here, still putting up great numbers, and
Kittle looks good,
and he looks really good,
explosive, and getting out of his breaks, he looks fantastic.
And that's the thing for me, and I've talked about it a few times on here, but I have made more of the shift of like outside of like 3 years from now at most, I really don't care. Like I really want to play in these like 3-year windows, and so if I still think 3 years from now he can still be a top 5 tight end type guy, which I think we could see out of a George Kittle, because we know Ayuk is out for the year. He'll be back next year, but still takes time for guys to get back and get, reacclimated.
But they have Ricky Pearsall too, though.
They do have Ricky Pearsall. He looks good. He looked good. But it would not surprise me if Debo ended up being gone from this team.
Debo Samuel, if I can predict right now, will not be a San Francisco 49er in 2025.
He seems like he's banged up every other week. There's always something at this point.
Is his contract up? Is that what's going on?
I believe this is the last
ballooning number.
I think he's got 2 years.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't think he's part of this team long term. So I think it goes back to a 2 to 3 headed monster, and it still will be annoying. But George Kittle has just been so good, and it seems like Brock Purdy has really, really invested in targeting him lately. We'll see what happens when Christian McCaffrey comes back. That could be somewhat a result of that, and so I'm willing to kind of adjust based on that. But then I do also have TJ Hawkinson there at 6.
Let me ask you this. Are we living in like a perfect storm here right now?
Potentially.
Because Christian McCaffrey's been out. The wide receivers have been really banged up. I know Kittle even missed a little bit of time, but he's been probably the healthiest of those guys. And he's producing and he's balling out. But what happens when Christian McCaffrey comes back? What happens when Ricky Pearsall establishes himself and then Debo maybe returns to health? Do we see a drop off from Kittle and he's back to being the same inconsistent guy that kind of got him in that muddle of guys in like the 7, 5, 6, 7, 8 range?
We could, but my counter to that is which one of these guys has been consistent? Like that.
This year's been a mess.
But even Trey McBride's been consistent. Brock Bowers has been consistent. We have them
and those
locked
guys
in at 1 and 2.
They have the biggest percentage of the passes of the targets.
That's been really good.
Out of any other tight ends in the league. You know what I mean?
And so that's the tricky part of it is I'll at least take the guy right now that is doing it versus, Sam Laporta, amazing 1 year, but we've seen that before, and sometimes things fade.
But then they come back, like Evan Ingram. He did it, and then he faded, but then he came back.
Yeah,
Debo Samuel, for the record, his cap hit goes from $12 million this year to $28 million next year. He still has $31 million of dead money though. So 28 against the cap, 31 dead. They could half, June 1st that thing and half the dead money.
I think they trade him. I don't think they cut him. I definitely don't.
Just letting you know the financials.
I think they trade him too, but they're going to have to probably eat some of that money on the trade, and we'll see how it goes. Yep. Depending on what kind of pick. Depends on what kind of pick they want back.
Yeah.
Let's touch on Kyle Pitts. So you guys both had him at 6.
I did my list first, so I think Rich was probably just copying. I don't know.
I have him at 4. Which is actually where he is on the year, and I made the bold prediction to start the year. Kyle Pitts, tight end 1 overall season. It'd be tough for him to catch George Kittle at this point. But what he's done over the past month has been incredibly encouraging. Double digits every single week, which is tough for any tight end to do over a 4-game stretch at this point.
And he scored 2 touchdowns in a game this past week.
He's had whole seasons where he hasn't done that.
I know.
Legitimately.
And really only had 1 going into that.
Yeah. So it's good to see that offense is opening up. This is kind of what we envisioned this offense looking like, where yeah, Kirk Cousins is going to be able to get it to these playmakers like Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
I think he's finally starting to feel
Darnell Mooney even.
He's starting to feel comfortable. Kirk is.
He is. And we see that offense opening up. Yeah, maybe the first month wasn't quite what we expect, but he's also a 36-year-old coming off an Achilles injury. Sometimes it takes a little time.
Getting dropped into a new offense.
A brand new offense,
brand new playmakers all around him.
So, when you pair that with a guy that I think Kirk Cousins could still have another 2-3 good years in him, and then you have the potential backup plan and Michael Penix already in place, you feel pretty good about the long-term outlook. So this is the most optimistic I've felt about Kyle Pitts since his rookie season.
Yeah, me too. And I mentioned that, Hockenson could be the one guy that could jump pretty significantly here. It could definitely be Kyle Pitts too. Like, he's still only 24 years old, just turned 24 as well, younger than Kincaid. I don't know how he is compared to Laporta too. So age-wise, he is there. It probably is silly for me to even have Dalton Kincaid higher than Pitts at this point, if I'm talking about it out loud. But, marriage makes you do weird things.
Crazy things.
I'm trying to find his target percentage compared, and he's like way down the list as far as, and that's the thing with Pitts. He's down at 16, and he's only got 14.7% of the targets compared to, but those top guys that are in the 20s.
The difference is, though,
25.
The volume of the entire offense.
Yeah.
The offense throws the ball a lot more than other offenses are throwing. So that's what, because that did concern me as well. Because when I look week to week, like, he's not getting like crazy shares, but he's still putting together 7-8 target games, pretty regularly. And so because the entire volume of the offense is pretty good, that kind of makes up for the,
for the lack of percentage. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So out of that tier, if there's one guy, and obviously you guys have, like, Garrett, you have Kyle Pitts at 3, Matt, you have Kincaid at 3, I have Laporta at 3, even though it doesn't matter. If you had to pick one guy out of that next tier after McBride, is it your guy's number 3 you feel the most confident in? Is that why you have him at 3? Like, you feel the most confident in Kyle Pitts, Garrett? You had the most confidence in Dalton Kincaid? Because I do not have the most confidence in Sam Laporta.
I do have the most confidence that Kincaid can kind of evolve and become the number one guy in that offense. So that's why I have him there still.
So out of those top guys, like, who is the youngest guy on most of our lists here is going to be Jake Ferguson. He is on all 3 of our lists. So he made the list for all 3 of us.
Yep, he did.
Matt's the only one that had Kelsey in his list at number 9, which is really weird you have him ahead of Mark Andrews, in my opinion, for how old he is.
He is old.
And I know he's come on these last couple of weeks, but they just traded for DeAndre Hopkins, who's also old. So look out, Grandpa.
Start a retirement home.
Yeah, I mean,
listen, can Travis Kelce go down? Yeah, he'll probably be the guy that keeps going down. But right now he's just still chugging along. So I'm going to keep him there.
But here's my question about that. You have Kelce in here. You have Travis Kelce in. You have him at 9. So you have him Njoku, Andrews, Ferguson. And Njoku's come on really strong again. Kind of picked up where he left off last year when he was the number 1 overall tight end over like the last 7 weeks. Jake Ferguson significantly younger. Mark Andrews older but significantly younger than Travis Kelce.
Sure.
You don't have Evan Ingram on your list.
Yeah, that's a surprise.
Evan Ingram also older, but now with the Christian Kirk injury, Brian Thomas banged up. If you're looking at obviously you have Travis Kelce on here on a short window, but for his target share, Evan Ingram arguably going to even see more targets.
Agreed. And Evan Ingram's probably the one guy that I admitted, and he would have been right out the bottom. You know what I mean? Like he's
but I understand
him.
Jake Ferguson.
I was trying to see him. Where do I put Cole Kmet? Those type of guys. Cade Otton has been coming on and climbing up my board as well. I had a hard time keeping him off this. I feel like Jake Ferguson right now is in a good spot there in Dallas just because it's CeeDee Lamb and him. And you know what I mean? That offense, they don't have a ton else going on there.
Can I ask a question that it could end up being a dumb question?
As long as you say it's very centrally.
Okay. So,
wow, good start. Go ahead.
Close your eyes, Matt. We're talking. Grown men are talking over here, please.
But could we hypothetically be in the exact same spot we've always been and just not realized it? Like, could we actually be at the point where, it was always Andrews and Kelce, or it was always Andrews or Kelce and Ertz, or it was always, there's always like 2 or 3 guys, and then everyone else doesn't matter. Could we actually just with more exciting names, but just the same version of that?
Of course.
Yes, that's what the tight end position is. What are you talking about?
But I think that's the crazy part is
we have
if you were to say you can get Sam Laporta, you can get Dalton Kincaid, you can get Kyle Pitts, you can get all these guys. It's like, whoa, getting hot and bothered. Like this is exciting.
Flowing south.
But the only guys that matter are Brock Bowers and Trey McBride.
And like, could it really kind of be back to that? Even
And old
just
guys,
with the exciting names
and old guys that are below them somehow.
No, because I think you have names in here. You have George Kittle. He's a tight end 1 overall. He's done it before. He's consistent. He's going to give you top 4.
Is he consistent this year? Right now, he's consistent.
He's had a couple of years of consistency. Let's put it that way.
he's consistent year to year, week to week is tough.
Yeah, yeah, and extremely talented.
I'll take that as an answer.
Kyle Pitts, super young, put over 1,000 yards as a rookie, still just turned 24 years old. Every right to be excited. Definitely over these last couple of weeks. Every right to be excited by Kyle Pitts. Yeah. You're excited if you have him. Mm-hmm. Hockenson, obviously, if it wasn't for the ACL, you'd be very excited to have him. I think Kincaid and Laporta fall into that category. But outside of that, like, you're very excited if you have Tucker Kraft right now. Could it still be the same old? But I think the difference is, the NFL has expanded. Tight ends have become I think tight ends have slid more into the receiver role than the tight end role. I think that's where the expansions come from. More teams are using 12 personnel more than ever. But
is it to throw the football?
They're throwing that, but they're lining some of these guys up more in the receiving role. Like Brock Bowers is a receiver. He's not even a tight end.
But I do wonder if we're getting this cyclical back to running the ball more because of the two high safeties.
The defenses have adjusted to passing, so now it's time to buck up and run.
I think it's the best time ever for tight ends. I'll say that. I don't think it's the same. I think top tier wise, I think we're probably still in that boat right now.
Okay.
But I think there's more people knocking on that door to join that second tier than we've ever seen.
It might be an interesting study to look at. You know what I mean? Like year over year, has tight end scoring gone up since X amount of days?
Yeah, get on that study, buddy.
I can do it.
But you know what I mean? Like before, it's like the top two guys and like tight ends 4 through 15 were the same. Now we have the top two guys.
And 4 through 15 are the same.
I don't think they are. If you bring up,
we literally just talked about how guys at 10, 11, and 12 are almost the same as guys at 3, 4, 5.
No, but I'm talking about actual like production from like a fantasy football standpoint, like PPR points. So like if you go right now, like tight end number 5, Tucker Kraft is averaging 11.1 points per game. It's not till you get down till tight end.
Tight end 4 to tight end 8,
9
are averaging basically the same.
Yes,
right around 11, right?
So that second tier is much bigger, is what I'm saying.
I think it's easier to do it on points per game right now because some people have had buys.
Right, 9 through 13 points per game are basically the same as well. So it's and that's a 2-point drop basically from 4 to 8 to 9 to 13.
Well, everything's a 2. These guys are pretty. I mean, George Kittle is the only one that's way ahead. 18 points per game.
5 at Kyle Pitts, all the way to 15 at Mark Andrews points per game wise. Unless I'm missing something, is 2 points.
15. Mark Andrews.
Yeah, Mark Andrews averaging 9 points per game.
Mark Andrews is tight end number 11.
Are you in those standard scoring settings?
No, PPR weeks 1 through 8. Mark Andrews is averaging 9 points per game, and tight end 4.
Dude, I have Mark Andrews here at tight end 11, 1 through 8. What do you have him?
11.
In PPR.
Tight end 5 is
11
Kyle Pitts.
too. What? Hit refresh on that.
Okay.
This is good radio.
Even better podcasting.
So why are you looking
better
at
with your
mine did the same thing again. Yeah.
But look, me and Matt had the same thing.
Why don't you refresh yours?
I just did.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, what is it? What is it saying Mark Andrews points per game are?
9.
Okay.
He's tight end number 11 on the year. Me and Matt had the exact same thing. Yours is broken.
Well,
what are you sorting by?
Just average points per game.
You're sorted
we have overall. You did average. Okay.
That's what I keep saying. Average points per game.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
He's tight end 11 on
So I'm correct. Okay. So tight end 15 on a points per game basis. Like what I said, average points per game.
I was looking at the points per game, but we sorted by where they are actually at in the standings.
Gotcha.
Rich and I. So that's where the confusion.
Okay, but either way, there's 15 players that are averaging 9 points or more. Okay. So there's only a 2 point per game difference between tight end 5 and tight end 15.
Okay, they're all the same. Yeah,
they're all the same.
But somebody's going to jump that. Remember,
they're all the same unless you need 2 points to win.
Seeing that I'm a back padded slut. And I like to only talk about what I'm right about. Last week's episode, when I went on, I was like, man, Ladd McConkey has a very good chance to be like, he's very close to being a wide receiver, one of my eyes. And then I also said, with that Godwin injury, I was like, a lot of people are going to talk about Jalen McMillan. The number one option there that I like that is Kayshon. I was like, my prediction was he's going to be a top 7 tight end for the rest of the year, and he jumped up to tight end number 6.
Good.
So, kudos to me for being a self-promoter.
How about we're on the tight ends, right? How about there were 5 tight ends? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tight ends to go 20 plus in PPR, and 18 that were in double digits.
It was a good week for
18 tight ends that were in double digits this past week. That is ridiculous. That is National Tight End Day, ladies and gentlemen.
And I enjoyed it because in our old league, I had George Kittle left, and my opponent, and I needed this win this week, had Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. I was like, man, no Andrew Thomas. Daniel Jones is looking not very good. I was like, man, it's been a tight end weekend. I was like, I need George Kittle to come through, and boy, did he ever. And I won by 5 points.
I mean,
thanks, George.
Even Adam Troutman decided to show up.
Crazy.
18.5 points. Insane. So everyone's doing it.
So, yeah, good week for tight ends. And Garrett's point, I think it's pretty valid. Like, are we still in the same tier? Probably, but it's more exciting than ever.
So for what it's worth, just real quickly, I just ran the numbers real fast. So the difference in points per game at tight end, we said, is 2.1 from player 5 to 15. I just did it on all the other positions. Quarterback's the next closest at a 3-point per game difference from 5 to 15. Running back and wide receiver are both 4.2 points per game difference between the running back or wide receiver 5 to 15. So we do see the closest gap, the least significance between the 5 and 15 at the tight end position.
Wow, damn, all that time?
Look at that. Speedy Gonzalez.
Wizard over there.
He is some sort of wizard with that calculator.
All right, well, on to the next one. And by that, I mean segment.
There we go. On to
what are we doing?
Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds has an incredible new offer from Underdog Fantasy for new customers. When you sign up as a new customer, you'll get a chance at their new customer free pick. But that's not all. Underdog is also offering incredible deposit bonuses. Use the promo code NERDS when you first sign up, and Underdog will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit. That's right, $1,000 to kickstart your fantasy football journey. Don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app. Sign up today with promo code NERDS and start your journey to fantasy football glory today. Must be 18, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. And in Tennessee, call 1-800-889-9789.
This is a new segment. We've never done this one before.
Yes.
I'm excited for it. This is Boomin, Backup, or Bust. So triple B's.
Back that ass.
That's right, basically.
Brock Bowers, Boomin, backup, bus, banging ass. Is that what you said?
Basically.
You could have put booty.
Booty.
You missed
banging
it.
booty. Ah! Hey, edit that out. Make me sound good.
Missed opportunities, man.
I'm going to repeat myself. Banging booty.
All right, so basically, I want to look at players that have uncertain futures right now, players that have maybe getting a little bit of buzz lately, but are far from being steady things at this point. And what I want us to do is, Rich, you get to bust out the crystal balls and look at 2025, so a year from now. Are these players booming, which means they are a weekly starting option for your team? Are they a backup? So good depth piece. Maybe you could start them like on a bye week, or if you had to in the flex, you'd feel okay doing that, but just more of a backup type player. And then bust a name like not even on our lips anymore. All right?
I get the concept.
All right, let's do it. I want to make sure everyone else does too.
We
All
have to explain. I didn't even know we were going 20, like a whole 360.
I didn't either.
Into the future.
You're right. That came out a little bit too
I get it,
negatively.
Garret.
So I apologize. That's not how I meant it. I was reading.
You're good.
It's
All
hard
right.
for me to do both.
So here we go. First one here, Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman, he's had a couple good weeks now. Really big week with the 2 touchdowns with Jameis Winston at the helm this week. So Boomin, back up or bust. How do you guys feel about Cedric Tillman?
I feel like Cedric Tillman is booming. And if you go over, since he slid into that role when Amari Cooper got traded into the number 1 role, and Pervy McGurvey got the boot, right? Literally, he's in a boot.
Literally.
From week 7 to week 8 for the last 2 weeks in PPR leagues. If you guys had to guess, where is Cedric Tillman over the last 2 weeks?
Over the last 2 weeks?
Amongst fantasy receivers. Now, and it's funny, I know, and you're like, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Okay, that's a quarter, that's 25% of the year. That's 25% of your fantasy season, right?
Of your, regular season for fantasy. Yep.
Yeah, it's 25% of the season so far. Where is Cedric Tillman in PPR leagues? Don't cheat.
I'm somewhere else.
I mean, it helps that I know he had 2 touchdowns this week.
It does help.
So I'm going to guess wide receiver 9.
Okay. And everybody listening at home or
11.
jogging?
I'm just going to say 11.
Okay. Matt, you were close if you take away one of those ones.
1? Get out of here.
Cedric Tillman in PPR leagues is the number 1 overall fantasy football receiver over the last 2 weeks with a total of 47 points. The next closest is Justin Jefferson with 40.9. He's got 6 more points than Justin Jefferson. That's a tutty.
That's what we've always said. Cedric Tillman over Justin Jefferson.
I've said it here too. So
you heard it here first.
Cedric Tillman, his 18.1 is 28.9 points over the last 2 weeks. Is wide receiver 1 overall. I give this a booming, and there's a couple of reasons why here. Elijah Moore's a free agent after this year. Mm-hmm. Amari Cooper just got traded.
Who, by the way, looks like a wide receiver again.
He looked really good.
Yeah, no kidding.
He looked really good.
Maybe he was interested again.
Yeah, maybe because the guy throwing the ball could actually get it to him.
So
on time, in rhythm.
This was a 3rd round pick by the Cleveland Browns, and he brings something completely different to the table that
Tillman
any other
we're talking
receivers
now.
do. Cedric Tillman.
Yep.
With Elijah Moore gone, Amari Cooper gone, a team that they need a left tackle, they need a quarterback, they have needs.
Oh yeah,
not to invest in their 1st round pick and a receiver. Do I still think they could draft a receiver, take a receiver? 100%. But if Tillman keeps on his projection, there'd be no need to.
They're going to take one in the 3rd round. That's where they love to take.
That's where they always take
spot, baby.
So yeah, I feel not only do I feel very comfortable in 2025, I certainly feel comfortable the rest of the way. With him coming out of Tennessee, this was a player that had some really good upside coming out. It wasn't for that ankle injury. He could have his numbers going into that big ankle injury he had were fantastic.
I was trying to find. Of course, I'm not able to find my nerd score for that year, but I want to say he was like my 5th rated receiver. Like I had him higher than I thought I did, and I was like, man, I really like this tape. I think he's pretty good, and it's tough in their first, little bit of time because you're like, oh man, maybe I got that evaluation wrong. Like maybe I missed something. And granted, that happens all the time. There's so many things we don't know and can't calculate. This is simply just based on tape alone. But I was like, I always thought he was better than what I've been seeing from him with the Cleveland Browns. And a lot of that could have just simply been like, now he's got a quarterback that believes in him, is willing to throw him passes that work for him. Because he is one of those more bigger physical box him out type guys, and so I'm excited for Cedric Tillman.
His biggest hurdle so far up to this point into this year was mental. Like he was running the wrong routes. Essentially, is the best way to say it. Like he didn't have he didn't have a good grasp of the offense. So
I mean, right now he's running the 2nd highest percentage of routes the past 2 weeks. He's got the most targets on the team, tied with David Njoku, and he's got his air yard share. His air yards are far and away the highest, 278. The next closest guy is Jerry Jeudy at 186. So he's getting the kind of usage I think that fits his skill set with a guy like Jameis Winston, who likes to go downfield.
And it shows that that's the offense the Browns want to run. Yeah. Same thing when Joe Flacco got into the offense last year. Same thing. It took off. And they're throwing the ball downfield. So you can see that this is the offense that Kevin Stefanski does want to run.
Yeah, he wants to run a run-based offense with play action,
complementary football,
passes off the back end, going deep. That's what it should be. And then stuff to your tight ends, like screen passes and all that kind of good stuff. And all that's coming back into the offense, and it looked really good this past week. So I think all in all, what is it? Boom,
bench or bust.
Boomin, backup, bust.
He's
backup bust.
He's definitely not a bust in my opinion. So he's either a backup or a boom. I'm kind of on the fence right now. Mm-hmm. If this continues, it's easily a boom. But the problem is Jameis Winston the guy next year? You know what I mean? What is this thing going to look like? And that's where I hesitate. I'm going to call him a bench player right now, just because I don't know the circumstances. I don't have my crystal ball to say.
I do. Boomin.
I lean toward Boomin as well. So I was able to find my nerd score sheet.
Double Boomin.
Cedric Tillman, I had him actually. It was a wide receiver 7 that I had him at. But the part that was controversial was I had him one spot ahead of Quentin Johnston, which at the time was a very hot take. It looks pretty good now.
I think I said like Cedric Tillman and Jonathan Mingo ahead of.
I have Jonathan Mingo at 5. He was the one I had at 5, and I had Tillman. So Mingo does not look very good, obviously, but it could also be another situation where just not great quarterback play
for sure. And Ryan McDowell had a good tweet before we sat down. I saw it. I actually wrote down here at RyanMC23. Cedric Tillman now has more wide receiver 1 games this season than these wide receivers: Stefon Diggs, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Smith, George Pickens, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, and Tank Dell. Ceddy Till. What would you give up for Tillman?
All right, never mind. He's a boom. He's a boom.
Booming. So it was funny.
Somebody take 3/3 for him.
I may or may not have had that in my inbox. I don't know. For at this point to sell him, it would take an early second. Like if I had a mid second, that's like kind of right on the tier. I think at that point I'd probably just rather hold him because I get it's a short, small sample size, but this doesn't look like a great wide receiver class. I would rather just hope that the guy keeps the role that he has right now, which is the wide receiver 1 on the team. If you can get me into that early second range, maybe I'm willing to risk it because of how good this running back class is. But still, we ran the numbers. We're looking at a 50-50 shot at best. Yeah. And once you get to that early second, it's moving down closer to that 25%. So I probably still, even at that point, as I think through those numbers, like I don't even know if an early second would get it done, and nobody's giving you a first. So he's probably just going to be a hold for me right now because I don't think anybody would be willing to give me what I would want.
Draft pick wise, you're right. It's going to be a hard draft pick move, but let me give you a couple wide receivers names.
Okay, that's fair.
And let's go that route. Would you rather, if I offered you Wan'Dale Robinson?
I will take Tillman.
Me too. Matt?
I'll
give you some good saucy names here.
No, I'll take Tillman with the upside.
Okay.
Because he can profile as a number 1 on the team.
Josh Downs. Joe Flacco's in. We didn't mention Anthony Richardson got benched.
Oh, yeah. That was the other news that I knew we needed to mention.
He came out because he was tired, and boy, is he going to get a rest.
That did not.
That whole thing has been a mess.
Well, with the team.
Nor should it.
Nor should it.
I'm sorry. That's despicable.
It really is
I was tired. Have you ever seen a quarterback run to the sideline, tapping their head for a break?
Look, I don't like it, period.
Have you ever seen that?
Bitch, you ain't got asthma.
I really don't like, but I get it like on receivers because you're sprinting, 30, 40 yards out, like a bunch of plays in a row. Like I get it. I still I'm old school though. Yeah. If I see my quarterback doing that, I'm
Coach.
Yeah. You ever see Lamar Jackson tapping his helmet?
Coach.
What are you even doing?
What?
That's not a play call. That's not an audible.
Flacco, loosen that arm up. I don't know. He's tired, man. Get in there, dude.
Is he concussed?
You got a bee in your helmet?
Throwing up gang signs? I don't know what's happening. Oh my gosh.
Josh Downs or Cedric Tillman?
Downs has looked really good.
Next time you guys ask me a tough question, I might just be
step out. I'm still gonna go Tillman though.
I need a segment out.
I've watched way too many highlights of Adonai Mitchell running wide open and not getting the ball or it being overthrown and stuff like that. I've watched a lot of those clips.
Was he at 30% last week? It was something gross.
For the next show, for our buy and sell segment you put in there, I copy pasted something off Twitter from NBC NFL, CBS NFL, and it has, and we'll read off next show, but it has Josh Allen and Anthony Richardson's stats for the equal amount of starts in the start of their career. Anthony Richardson's are better.
Anthony Richardson.
They're clearly leaning
Josh Allen.
clearly leaning very heavily on his first 3 games versus this season.
Anyways,
that's the case.
You picked Josh Allen.
I picked Tillman.
I picked Tillman. Matt, Josh Allen. Tillman.
Again, I think it's Tillman, and it's because he profiles as a number 1, or could profile as a number 1.
Okay,
both these guys are kind of the same.
I'm gonna stick with the same team, and then we'll move on because I want to spend so much time about like, ooh, this guy or this guy. 27-year-old Michael Pittman Jr.
I gotta go Pittman
or Cedric Tillman.
I gotta go Pittman. When Joe Flacco's in there or any other quarterback at this point, he's been very solid.
But Joe Flacco's not the long-term answer.
I get it, but I just need somebody to hit 55% of their passes.
I saw Benjamin Albright. They asked how's it going to look in Indy next year, and he said Justin Fields will be the quarterback in Indy next year.
Dang it! Does that make it better?
That does not make it better.
No, but he said that, and I was like, oh, that's a good fit.
I mean, it's better, but it's not.
It's not. But anyways, Michael Pittman, because this one to me, like, I probably lean Pittman too, but I don't think it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right choice.
I'm going to go Pittman because it's the same situation. You're in this short-term
typical situation.
Kind of right now.
The difference is the money. He's been paid.
Yeah, so is Deshaun Watson.
Well, but Tillman hasn't.
No, I'm from a production standpoint. Pittman and him are in the same prediction as far as they just have these temporary Band-Aid solutions at the quarterback.
Right.
And we don't know what their kind of future holds. But I know I've seen Pittman do it longer, so I'm going to go with Pittman.
Well, one person is averaging 9.5 points per game.
Pittman is fighting through a back injury right now and a quarterback that can't complete 30% of his passes. So.
Which is fair. That is very, very fair. Okay, who's next on the list?
Ray Davis. So we went Boomin, and then you said backup, or did you say?
You said bench. Or said backup. Yeah.
What bench, is it? Backup?
It's backup.
Okay.
Boomin, backup, bust.
I said backup, yes.
Backup. Okay.
Sound like those weirdos, those Italian weirdos that do that boom thing.
The guy. The Costco.
The dad who wears makeups and wears tight clothes and flexes. Even though
I thought of AB. I thought of Antonio Brown.
Anyways, I hate those guys.
Ray Davis.
Yes.
Ray Davis. We saying Boomin, backup or bust for next year?
Matt.
Ray Davis is going to be a backup. And
look pretty good.
He has looked good.
He has looked good, but
so James Cook.
James Cook looks real good. That's the problem.
And the hard part is I don't think they're the next Detroit where 2 guys can be fantasy starters in the backfield at the same time. Because Josh Allen is the other running back.
They don't want to run the ball traditionally that amount.
Yeah, he's a backup. You 100% want him on your roster. You know, outside those running backs, those top end running backs, like the first couple, like my 2 favorite right after that, like 4 and 5, are Tyrone, Tracy, and Ray Davis. I really like this tape. And it showed, because look what happened when James Cook missed the game on Monday Night Football. Came out, had 152 yards rushing and receiving all together versus the Jets. So, and I was filling in. So when you feel very comfortable when James Cook misses time, that you have a very solid running back in there. But once he comes back here and get a little bit more of what you saw like this past weekend, where he had 6 carries, 29 yards, 0 targets in the pass game, which hurts. Average 4.8 yards attempt, which is really good. But James Cook has looked really good in this offense as well. So, unfortunately, you know, different situation, different time. He could be a Boomin player. Like, same thing. If he was in New York, if the tie was flipped and Tyrone Tracy was in Buffalo, we'd probably be pretty excited about Ray Davis, if we're being honest.
Sure.
And it's good to see Tyrone Tracy supplant Devin Singletary. Love to see
Clearly
that as well. To me, I say backup until he's the guy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going back up too. And is that what you said, Matt?
Back up. Yep.
Back that thing up. Okay. All right. Ray Davis. We like him, but we still don't think he's going to be a fantasy starter next year. How about a guy that is technically the backup in Cincinnati? He's backing up Mike Gesicki, who's actually had a decent season. Mr. Erick All. Do we think next year he's booming? He's a backup or a bust?
I'm going Boomin.
I was too. Dang it. I thought I was going to be alone on it.
Oh, no.
I've liked what I've seen out of Erick All.
I have too.
And I liked him coming out.
Yes, you did.
I'm going to say, I still don't know that I'm booming. Why are you guys booming?
I'm going to tell you why
Explain your
It's
booming.
a 1-year deal for Gesicki.
I am going to explain exactly why I'm booming. On yesterday's show, I told Matt, I was like, man, there's a stat here that every time T. Higgins misses games, Mike Gesicki does awesome. And the stats are, here it is now, because now we were a day later, so I had a little bit more time to look into things.
Yes, you do.
And Mike Gesicki has played 3 games without T. Higgins. He has 17 catches for 102 yards. And in 2 of those games, he led his team in receiving. So he's been pretty much a tight end, top tier tight end.
Yeah.
Without him, T. Higgins will leave next year. Mike Gesicki will leave next year. Will they bring another receiver? I'm sure, but they don't have a lot of money.
It'll probably be Burton or Yoshivas.
And Burton's fine. Yoshivas is fine. Maybe they'll draft a guy. But this team, and we've kind of seen it too, more in of a potpourri manner, whether it be Tanner Hudson over the last couple of years where they were using multiple tight ends. If Erick All could find himself as the number 1 tight end, which I expect him to fall in that slot, and we know that he was drafted in the 4th round, which is still pretty good draft capital in the 4th round. It's not terrible. Yep. And that was coming off a year where he was bit by injuries for the most part. Like he didn't have a chance to play, and if he did, because he was an explosive athlete, he would have been drafted higher. I remember, like you said, you like this tape a lot.
Agreed.
So
yep.
I'm going Boomin because I think there's a very good chance that these stats can carry over because there'll be no T. Higgins on the year next year. And that those Mike Gesicki numbers can fall into that tight end role of a guy like Erick All. So when we're talking about a hodgepodge of tight ends that are all like pretty close, I think there's a chance that we could take Erick All and mix them with All.
I love the theory there. How about that?
Call me Einstein.
Gesicki to me is that guy that is a big wide receiver. And I think that might contribute a little bit to him kind of having these big numbers when T. Higgins goes out. Where Erick All is a more well-rounded and traditional tight end that catches the ball well. So I don't know that there's a one-for-one.
He's not small. He's 6'5", 250.
I know.
Okay.
No, but I just don't think he's the athlete.
You're almost saying he's like hurts himself by being a good blocker.
Correct. So I think that they'll be able to get more out of him from a tight end perspective, whereas they see Gesicki and they're like, don't bother blocking, just go out there and be our T. Higgins replacement.
Sure.
Because we need that kind of explosive playmaker in the passing game. So I'm not sure that Erick All is going to have enough juice to be a boom, but I think he's going to be a nice streaming type of guy. So therefore, I think he lands in the bench. Backup. Sorry, I'm really bad.
You're good. No.
I'm really bad at this segment. Backup.
There's too many B's. That makes sense. I ended up going Boomin because I do think he will, at some point in the year in 2025, become a regular starter for fantasy teams as a top 12-ish, give or take type of guy. And part of the thing that leads me to feel pretty good about that is how many targets he's already getting as a rookie.
Yep.
He had 3 games with 4 targets, and he's had at least 2 or more targets in all games except for week 1, and then in week 7, he's had 2 or more targets in every single game. So for him, even as a backup tight end, to be getting that many looks and that involved in the offense.
Caught 18 of 19 too, so he's hoovering what they're sending him. So that's good.
Absolutely. So that does make you feel pretty solid about, hey, they're intentionally getting him involved fairly early. Better days are ahead. So I'm not sure that he'll ever be that top 5 tight end.
No, definitely not.
But could he end up being in the Cole Kmet and guys like that we've always Hunter Henry and guys that they're solid starts when you need them, but they're not like top tier type of guys. I think that's where he's going to fall in as soon as next year.
Yeah, and so Boomin sounds weird, but like
at tight end, it's not as hard to be Boomin.
Yeah, it's not hard because there's no difference if he's tight end 12 and tight end 6. He's booming all around.
Well, there's no difference between tight end 15 and tight end 5. We've already said that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Bingo.
Booming, baby.
So even though for me he might be a bench. No.
Backup.
Backup bencher.
Backed up bench.
That could mean the same thing that you guys are saying because he could really be tight end 15 and be on my bench, but be in your starting lineup at tight end 15.
Big bad body benching backup.
Speaking of the B's, how about Boutte? Kayshon.
Go ahead.
Boutte. How do we feel about the booty here?
Bust.
At number 4, he's our 4th guy we're going to cover here. Bust?
I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna. I guess you could throw him in backup just because, or bench player just because you're not going to cut him. So I wouldn't say bust because I'm not going to cut him. I guess so. Bench,
but bust is a player that like we just don't even really talk about.
Yeah, I mean, this past week in New England, like he led the team. Well, he tied amongst receivers. He led the team in targets with 6. He caught 3 from 46 yards. Hunter Henry also had 6 targets, but he led the team in targets. And before that, he only had 11 targets on the year. Before that, so he has 17 on the year. But for me, I feel like the number one player on this roster, I mean, he's 7th in the team in targets with 17. I don't think the number one receiver is on this roster for next year.
I agree with how high they're going to be picking guys like McMillan and Burden and potentially, I mean, they could have the top overall pick and take Travis Hunter, and 100%. He does both.
And they have a second round pick invested in Jalen Polk. So even though he's not coming around this year, like it's not a wash, like he's just not done. He'll have a chance next year. Pop Douglas has been a very solid. He'd be a very good number 3 receiver on an NFL team in that role. And if he's number 2, that's fine. So for me, that makes Boutte most likely 3rd receiver on a New England offense that right now is a couple years away from being probably transformative to what we see now. So to me, bench, because I'll hold on to him for youth and some stuff he showed on college tape that was pretty nice, but he's closer to bust than he is to boom.
He is a backup at best, but he is
a lot of B's backup at best, buddy.
He's out there right now performing, and he has the rest of the year to kind of change my mind, right? I don't know that he does anything fantastic. He's out there running a lot of routes. He has the second most amount of routes in the past month, only to Hunter Henry. The problem is, and I think he's got the most air yards. Yeah, he's got the most air yards, but the problem is, even though Demario Douglas runs less routes, has less air yards, Demario Douglas is the guy that has the most yards.
When he's on the field, they're trying to get him the ball.
He's clearly the best receiver on the team.
Yeah, so I think they kind of know what they have. And Demario, I mean, and Kayshon Boutte is just he's kind of trying to establish himself, and I don't know that it's ever going to really happen to the extent that what you guys were just talking about is going to isn't going to happen. Like they're not going to go out and replace him with a better player.
Sure.
So he might be a nice guy to stash, but I wouldn't expect a ton out of it.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards bust here. I just don't see a scenario next year or anytime really where he becomes even a guy that is like, I feel good about throwing him in my flex, or like, oh, it's a bye week. I can throw Boutte in there. Like, I feel pretty good about that. Like, I just don't see that as a likely scenario on a team that, yes, they look better under Drake May, who was concussed this week and whatnot. But
more bogus than badass. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Michael Wilson, he is the second wide receiver option, but the third option overall in this Arizona offensive passing game. How do we feel about Michael Wilson? Boomin, backup, or bust next year?
I feel like the word radical and bogus should kind of make a comeback a little bit.
Radical.
Bogus. Yeah.
I like bogus.
Yeah, bogus. Dude, bogus.
Bogus, man.
That was radical. That was so rad.
Boomin, backup, bust.
Because then radical
bogus.
goes to radical. Rad. Yeah, bogus. Like, oh, bogus. Michael Wilson, he's a bench player that you feel pretty comfortable with.
Backup.
Yeah. Sorry.
Say it.
Sorry.
Correctly.
Backup bench.
I finally got it figured out. And I'm
going
to correct you every time.
He's the kind of guy that you feel comfortable with him on your roster, dynasty roster. He's your wide receiver 5 or 6. He's a bye week or injury filler you need for a couple of weeks, and he's wide receiver 49. But the reason I say that too, 4 out of the 8 games that Michael Wilson's played this year, he scored 10 points or more. And 2 of those, he scored 14 points like this past week. So
the problem is the 1, 2, 3, 4 games where he scored, under, or 3 games where he scored 5 or under.
Yeah, 100%. That's why he's a nice bench player. You hope when you put him in that you get one of those bigger games.
Weeks.
And to be fair, like this is like his first full year of playing with Kyler Murray too, growing that rapport. So you look for this offense to be for the next foreseeable future, for at least the next 2 years at minimum, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray. So as his rapport and his relationship grows with Kyler Murray, you hope he can get a little bit more consistent and inch towards like average that 8 to 10 points. And obviously he has to score a touchdown to get to those 14 points. That's why he scores those. But, obviously a backup, but a guy that at least he has a youth that if you put in there, he could potentially give you double points. Yeah. You're never going to start him. But if you put him in your lineup, kind of like I had to like the other day, he's like a Darius Slayton. Yeah. Is what he is.
Yep.
With obviously Darius Slayton on some boom. I had to slide Darius Slayton in my lineup yesterday. Boy, did it work out pretty damn
pretty good.
Yeah. Did it feel good, Garrett, beating me with Darius Slayton? Did it feel good?
That's bogus, man. That's bogus,
he was one of my OG late round dart throw guys.
You beat me by like 3 points.
But you know what I mean? Like you're never gonna cut Darius Slayton off your roster
Because he's great during injury weeks.
Yeah,
and
you just never know when he's going to get in there and slide in and get you those kind of games where he has 4 catches for 95 yards, right? And then the previous week he had a big touchdown as well. So that's the best comp I can give him. Like I think
that's fair.
He's a younger Darius Slayton and not by too much, a couple of years.
Yeah. I've been a big Michael Wilson guy. I liked him quite a bit last year, but we kind of always knew he probably doesn't profile as the number 1. He's probably going to end up being the number 2 somewhere as a really solid number 2. And I think that's exactly what we have. Nobody's going to talk about them as like the best duo in the league or anything like that. But he's a professional. He gets the job done. He's got good hands. He's reliable. Like he does everything you want to do. So I think he is the epitome of a backup.
Epitome.
Epitome.
He pulled a Rich.
I did, didn't I? What's epitome mean?
You read it. Dang it. I literally said that at a show once. I got yelled at. It's epitome, Rich.
What's epitome mean?
I read it. The only thing that sucks for him is, he's a solid number 2, but on this offense, he's the number 3.
No, I'm right. Epitome meaning a person or thing that is an example of particular quality or type.
Well, what does epitome mean?
I'm basically the same thing.
That's stupid.
So I was right. Suck it. Suck it.
That's the epitome of
that's the epitome of a stupid word.
That's why I just make up words all the time. That way you can't be wrong. It's about consistency, Garrett.
There we go.
Anyway, Michael Wilson, I already said that he's a backup. I think he's a backup.
We're consistent here.
Yep.
Consistent across the board here. All right. 2 more guys real quick. Blake Corum.
Bench.
Or backup.
Backup.
Boomin, backup or bust. So you're saying backup.
Yeah.
Kyron Williams is just too damn good. They're not giving him an opportunity to be anything more than that. So without injury, he's a backup player.
Yeah.
And that's the epitome of what a backup player is.
Yeah. Sean McVay likes his running backs to give him all the carry. Kyron Williams, 139 carries so far in the year, averaging 3.8 yards per carry.
Blake Corum, like 12. I don't know.
20.
I'm just making that up, but it seems
he has
like
20. He's averaging 3.7. Ronnie Rivers has 10, averaging 5.1.
Best guy on the team.
Best guy per average.
So let me ask this question, though. Are you ever going to actually feel like you can put him in your flex or put him in on a bye week? Yeah. Outside of an injury to Kyron?
Oh, yeah. No. 0.
So that's the hard part is like, is he a bust then?
But we're not going to not talk about him. There's always going to be conversation.
Yeah, you're not going to cut him off your roster. Listen, I didn't like him. I didn't lower my rookie tape.
Sure.
My rankings anyways.
None of us had him.
So it's like, for where he's drafted, like I expected him to be he's a backup, that profile. If he gets a start, like sweet. But same thing with Ray Davis, or same thing with a ton of other running backs out there. Yeah. Listen, if you're getting carries, we say this all the time, like the Mike Davis effect. Like if you get the carries, you can average 3.8 yards per carry and still produce.
Still be pretty dang good.
You just need a production. Unfortunately, Kyron Williams looks too good. He's a starter running back there for next year. Wouldn't be surprised, with all the money they have rolling off this roster and how old it is, like he gets extended.
I can see that
in LA as well. So I was wrong on Kyron Williams. He was a guy that we took out of our top 12, and I was like, just out of historical data, I was wrong about Kyron. And for that, I will admit it. I was wrong. He looks great. He's a running back 1. I wish I had some shares. I have 0.0 shares, and I'm okay with that as well because he's a running back.
There we go.
Last guy,
Jalen Coker. Somebody that
Jalen Weeder. Not good to do all that.
Somebody that has he was in this rookie class. I didn't love his tape. I don't think any of us particularly liked his tape a lot. But he's gotten an opportunity here with the Panthers. And he's done some things with it over the past few weeks here. Let's see. I had it, of course.
Where did Coker go? Like this is
Holy Cross.
Okay, this is one of those guys I can't even remember watching.
He's like 6'3", not fast.
Okay.
He felt, remember we had a whole bunch of guys who were like
pretty
big,
stiff.
but could go up there and go get the ball. Like he was a good jump ball guy.
Okay.
That's what he did well.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at that. But now he's forcing an opportunity.
But
I honestly don't. I can't even remember.
He's played over the past month.
I don't either. I had notes.
This week he had a pretty decent game, 17.8 points. But before that, 2 points, 6 points, 10.8 the week before that, and that was his first game. So now with the departure of Diontae Johnson, he is going to likely get some more opportunities. He's going to be involved. So even though I didn't love the prospect, it's hard to say that I think he'll be completely irrelevant next year.
Bench.
So I want to go bench, but then I also think like any one of these guys could step up. Do I really think that there's going to be a time in 2025 that I'm going to feel okay putting him into my lineup? Probably not.
Probably not. But right now, for the opportunity, what he's shown, he's a bench guy.
If
you cut him. You're not cutting Jalen Coker.
I'm not cutting him, but I'm saying, like, do I think we'll ever seriously talk about him again? I don't know.
I think there's a slight chance. That's why I won't call him a bust yet. Because he's a rookie, so anything can change.
Sure,
right?
Sure. And all these guys are like rookies.
And he's going to get an opportunity to kind of prove himself. And this team has so many holes, and they just invested a first-round pick in a receiver, so it's hard to see them go back into that well again right away for another high pick. More likely it'd be like a free agency ad there too. But this team has so many holes that if he can over the next couple of weeks show something, he could carve himself out.
No, that's fair. That's
number two. So I won't call him a bust yet because he's actually done some He's done more than I expected him already. So
by making a team and catching a few passes.
And put up more than 10 points twice. So for that, it's impossible to call him a bust yet.
You can't discount, especially a guy coming from a place like Holy Cross.
I have a coupon.
There will be no discount. You cannot discount the fact that he's now in the NFL getting the best coaching, the best weight room, the best training, all that kind of
QB
stuff.
Play.
The best QB play he's ever seen. There will be no discount.
I mean, coming from Holy Cross, this is still probably better quarterback play than he's used to.
Very fair.
It really is. So you could see a guy like that kind of develop and come along. So I'm not gonna bust him or boot. What is it? Bust. I'm not gonna bust him. I'll put him on the bench or backup. Dang it, backup.
You were so good for so long.
Dang it,
and you lost it. All right.
Clearly, this segment needs to be changed to bench.
How long is this show?
A long.
Yeah,
long. Hour and 10. Let's see.
Look at us.
Yep, crushing it.
All that chatty Cathy stuff early on, me asking you to get texts about being in your inbox to leave a rating review. Listen, if you don't want me to text you, because I'll text you, and then I'll block your number so you can't text me back. Leave us a rating review on the show. Check out dynastynerds.com. Get in there. The film room just had another massive update into the film room with over 100 games of all 22. Remember, our tape is all 22. If you want to dominate your rookie draft, if you don't want to draft Blake Corum over, listen, I liked Tyrone, Tracy, and Ray Davis. I think I had those guys ranked, if not in the same tier, higher than Blake Corum because I was really low. Information like that, and trust me, you're going to get some wrong stuff as well. Nerd Herd. Get you there. So
check it out.
Watch the tape. It'll help you. If you watch Tyrone Tracy's tape, you'll be like, wow, this guy has a lot of upside. Ray Davis has some upside. Just as much upside as Blake Corum. Join the Nerd Herd. Leave us a rating review. We love you. We'll be back for week tomorrow. I was saying week 10.
Tomorrow.
Adios.
It would even be week 9.